Hey guys, it's Casey. Welcome to Filmsday Friday, which is a bit like Reviews Day Tuesday, except I talk about movies instead of books. Today's video is a little bit of a cop-out because I'm going to be talking about both a movie and a book. Today's pick is The Fault in Our Stars, which was adapted from the New York Times bestseller, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I read the novel last year. It was fantastic, and so I was a little bit nervous to go see this movie because sometimes book-to-movie adaptions tend to have this annoying habit of being book light. So I didn't want to go see a version of TFiOS that was TFiOS minus the plots and characters that I came to love. The Fault in Our Stars book was one of those books that really touched me, and yeah, I cried when I read the book. I didn't cry as much in the movie theater, but I think it's because I already had this foreknowledge of certain plot twists, which when you see the movie, you'll understand. If you know what's going to happen, it's not quite as big an impact, but I did get a little teary-eyed in several parts. So overall, the Fault in Our Stars movie was very, very entertaining. I ended up seeing it on Wednesday because in my area, the opening weekend of the movie was completely sold out. There have been some controversies about John Green talking about his film on Twitter and Tumblr, where he said some things that may be misconstrued as being sexist or being kind of male saviory, and I think that it's important to take those comments in context because a lot of the hate that's going around takes those comments out of context for people who haven't seen the context and then use it to vilify John Green, which I think is completely unfounded. For example, he tweeted something along the lines of that it was a brave move or ballsy move or something to release a film with a female protagonist in the summer. Now, out of context, this sounds like he's patting himself on the back for writing a novel and adapting into a film about a female protagonist as if no one's ever done this or as if it's bound to fail or whatever, when in fact, his novel's a bestseller, it has already a built-in fan base, also they've been doing tons and tons of advertising for this film. But in context, he was congratulating the cast, the crew, the people who worked on the film for putting together such a fantastic movie that it would do well in the box office despite having not only a female protagonist but a disabled female protagonist in a romance, which aren't usually released in the summer because in the summer people tend to release action flicks. So The Fault in Our Stars was going up against a Tom Cruise movie, I think? It is a Tom Cruise movie. The Tom Cruise movie is called Edge of Tomorrow, and in fact, in opening weekend, The Fault in Our Stars did better than Edge of Tomorrow. I know in my theater there was only one showing of Edge of Tomorrow the night that I went to see the movie, which was Wednesday, and there were 3 of TFiOS. So yes, this is unusual. Yes, this is outstanding. And John Green was not patting himself on the back for making this happen because he had very little to do with the actual filming process, but instead was congratulating and excited about the feminist implications of such a film doing so well at a time slot that usually is dominated by white male actors in action flicks. When I went to see the Fault in Our Stars movie, I was I was anticipating a lot of scenes being cut for time, but overall, a lot of the stuff that was cut for time were not important conversations. They tended to be little things that I was like, oh, well, the book, something happened here. But if you're going to see the movie and you haven't read the book, it is a fantastic standalone film, and I think anyone who sees this movie will love it, regardless of whether or not they read the book first. That is the true measure of whether or not a book-to-movie adaptation will work, is whether or not people who have read the book will love it, or people who have not read the book will love it. And I think that this is a movie that goes both ways. The film was very true to the book. It had a lot of the important scenes and characters in it, and not a lot of things were cut for time. There were a couple of things that I wish had been worked in particular 2 scenes in the book that I really connected to that didn't quite make the cut. I'm going to try to keep this as non-spoilery as possible, but one scene was in the book, Hazel had a friend who didn't have cancer, a friend from before she had cancer that she still stayed connected to, and I wish that they had explored that relationship in the movie, where that character did not appear in the movie at all, so it did feel a little bit like I don't want to say narrowing, but like her world was a little bit smaller in the movie than it was in the book, and I found that a little bit unrealistic, but I understand that that relationship would have taken up screen time that could have otherwise been used to develop the relationship between Hazel and Augustus, which was more important to both the plot and the sentiments of the film. There was another scene that I enjoyed in the book that I wish had been in the movie that was actually filmed, and I know this because it has a John Green cameo in the deleted scenes that I didn't see, but I've seen GIFs from, so I know it exists. In the book, there's this scene where this little girl asked Hazel about her cannula, about the tube that supplies oxygen to her lungs when she carries around this oxygen tank. And this little girl doesn't yet have that sense of it's taboo to talk about illness and to ask questions, and I found it a very interesting depiction of how people with disabilities are marginalized and how children don't understand that yet and don't have this sense of inherent ableism and, yeah, making it taboo to talk about illness and to talk about disabilities. And so in the book there was this really cute innocent scene where Hazel lets this little girl try on her cannula and she says, "I think it's making me breathe better," and it's super cute. And it was a mother and daughter in the book, but in the film, John Green plays the little girl's father, and obviously it was cut for time, not for acting prowess, because I think John Green probably did a really good job. Sorry, John Green, that your cameo got cut. Wish it had been in the film, because I really did like that scene in the book. If you're gonna watch the movie first before you read the book, or you are unable to read the book, I will not judge you for this, because I know a lot of people are like, you must read the book first. You know what? With something like this, you can judge the book based on the film, because the film was a highly truthful adaptation, and it captured all the sentiments and all the important moments and all the philosophies and the nature of the lessons learned and all that stuff was in the movie. So for a movie about two kids with cancer falling in love, it ended up being not cheesy and not cliche, and I found it highly entertaining, and sometimes I even forgot that I'd read the book first, and I was, excited to see what happened next, and yeah, like, if you haven't read the book, it's still going to be an excellent movie, and I found, of course, the romance felt a little rushed, but you can imply that there are other scenes, going on between certain scenes, and that there's time passing, and that they don't just, like, fall in love at the drop of a hat. Like, it feels a little bit like that in the movie, but that's just because they really are rushed for time. In any movie where there's a romance, it's going to feel like that, because obviously no romance in real life happens over, a day, a week, a month. Really excited the movie like this is going well, because it is a step in the right direction progressively for women, for people with disabilities. And even though the cast is straight and white, it is showing some diversity, and John Green's other novels do that even better. So now that one of his novels has been a success in the box office, they're adapting another one, Paper Towns, which will star Nat Wolff as Q, and that book has some racial diversity. It has reversal of certain tropes like the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. It does all sorts of interesting things, and I feel like if they keep adapting John Green novels, they become more and more diverse. One of his books has a Jewish and a Muslim character as best friends. One of his books has, a black main character, and another one where he co-wrote with David Levithan, Will Grayson has a gay main character, and, so this is a step in the right direction. So yes, they adapted one of his best-selling novels that does include a straight white protagonist, but not all of his books do, and so you can't say that he's against diversity or like rag on him for being excited that a female protagonist is doing well in the box office, because that really doesn't have anything to do with him. It has to do with the society's interpretation of his characters, and the way that they are portrayed wasn't dictated by him. So yes, there was another instance where he sent out a message that he was excited that the female character got to kiss the boy in the film. And when does that happen? Well, it turns out that actually happens a lot in teen romances, because they are marketed towards women, and women want to see themselves in control of their romances. So it's usually fairly common for the female to make the first move. in a heterosexual romance marketed towards teenagers and young women in particular. But he did apologize for that with a thoughtful comment, and he said, you know, that he was sorry and he was excited over that particular choice because it wasn't made clear in the book, and that he was happy that they, you know, stuck true to his novel, despite the fact that they actually ended up sort of changing that a little bit to make it more explicit, the fact that Hazel went in first, and he was excited about that change because it showed female agency. And you know, you're allowed to be excited when your book gets adapted into a movie. That's a very exciting process, and I don't understand all the John Green hate, because it is a very excellent book and a very excellent movie, and I recommend both of them very highly. Here is my ticket from the Fault in Our Stars on Wednesday to prove that I saw it. I'm not just sprouting bullcrap. I hope that you go see the movie because it was very excellent and moving, and I enjoyed it a lot. And again, if you're gonna not read the book, you don't have to, because the movie really does capture all the sentiments that are important to the book. So while I found the book a better story, it's not the only story.